Hey guys, Nick here. Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and part 3 to the next Walking Dead story. What if The Walking Dead was a dream? Before we get started, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick, and check out the About Heaven homepage so you don't miss anything for the Omniverse's future. With all that said, let's begin. So, last time we left off, Rick got Morgan and Dwayne to believe him, provided that he starts to prove that he is actually telling the truth, and that just because he tells Morgan and Dwayne what's going to happen to them, this doesn't prove to them that everything's on the up and up and that Rick could be their saving grace in this apocalyptic world. So they go on their way to Atlanta. And Rick and Morgan continue talking and journeying through. Much different journey to Atlanta. And Morgan and Dwayne continue to ask more and more questions, kind of get still suspicious, and overall, it's just very weird. And Rick understands and says he should be right around here. And they come across Glenn. And once Glenn gets the three of them up to where they need to be to get to the building that everybody else is, yes, what are all three of them doing there so nonchalantly, with freaking walkers flooding the city? And Rick and Glenn, they're about to start talking, but Morgan and Dwayne are there too. So Glenn just decides, let's get you up to where everybody else is so that we're actually safe. We don't want, any walkers finding out about us yet, because they will eventually, and even Rick knows this. So they get up to where everybody else is. Andrea, Jackie, T-Dog, Merle, Morales, everybody. And Morales, he wants to know what is going on here. And before Rick or anybody else can do anything, Merle starts his crap, but Rick instantly puts him down and cuffs him and says, "You stay there, Merle, and shut your mouth." And Rick gets even closer and says, "You might have changed in the end, Merle, but all in all, you are the first person on my list in terms of making sure who's under control." And Rick points his gun again and says, "So if you know what's good for you, you're going to shut up and stay there. But don't worry. I don't intend to make the same mistake of leaving you there like we did before. I know full on well how that turned out. So consider yourself lucky for now. But I'd advise you to sit there and shut your mouth." And Andrea is just so confused. How does this guy know who Merle is? And what's he want? What's he doing here? And with these two people? And Glenn says he has something to tell all of us. And it should be, somewhat important if they were just going through nonchalantly. And Rick says, "Yes, I do. Andrea, T-Dog," and he just starts calling everybody by their names. And this dumbfounds everybody. And then Rick has to sucker in a huge breath because he's about to unveil the actual story behind what he experienced to especially Morgan and Dwayne. So he takes the biggest breath he feels like he ever has. Listen to me, all of you. I know it's confusing and it's a lot to take in, but I have something very important to tell all of you. 10 minutes later, the entire story of what Rick Grimes went through has been unfolded to everybody. They are just so dumbfounded, amazed, surprised, bewildered, and completely overthrown by emotion. But Merle's not. He just scoffs, laughs, and freaking just bawls with tears of laughter. And he's like, "You all don't really expect to believe this high deranged cop with this fabled story. And I thought I got a little, messed up. But Rick just looks up at me and is like, of course Merle wouldn't believe him. But then he looks to everybody else and says, trust me, I know how it sounds. And to be honest, not even I think that it's real. But I'm here in this situation, staring at all of you exactly as I remember. And this is all happening almost identical to how I remember it. But I was able to save Morgan and Dwayne from who they became and what happened to them. My goal is to save the rest of you. And I know how especially to do that, and I know how every single one of you dies. Glenn, you died at the hands of a man named Negan with a barbed wire bat. He had you on your knees. Bashed your head in right in front of me, in front of your pregnant wife, Maggie. Morales, you sided with that man, Negan, after deciding to go with your family. And they never made it to Birmingham. You were the sole survivor and joined that man named Negan. I didn't know about it until quite a while later. A lot later. Many years, especially after Glenn's death. You weren't able to see it. You didn't see it. You weren't there. You became someone completely different, forced Merle's own brother to put an arrow through your heart. Jackie, you decided to stay inside the CDC after you figured out that it was all pointless to keep on going. And you chose that for yourself. T-Dog, you sacrificed yourself. For everybody. For Carol. She would be dead if it wasn't for you. And T-Dog hearing all of this is like, he's thinking about this the longest more than anybody. And it's like, Glenn, Morales, Jackie, and himself, it's like, they're actually starting to believe him. Because he would have no reason to make this up. But Andrea's like, you guys can't honestly believe this. I mean, yeah, he seems to be making a lot of sense, but this could just be what it is. Just a story from some deranged guy, you know? And she hates to be the one to agree with Merle Dixon, but this is crazy. Even after Rick says about what happened to her. You know, governor, death, that stuff. But Glenn says, Andrea, look, what reason would this guy, Rick, have to lie to us? He's making sense. And if this is all true, he can stop what happens to us. Don't you want that? And he's already changed what's happened, apparently. And Morgan agrees. And Andrea's like, she's really skeptical. But Rick says he knows none of them are going to and should believe him. But not even he believes it. But first things first, they got to do something that will correct things permanently. And he says, uncuff Merle Dixon. And T-Dog's like, why? And when he figures out he was going to save him and he dropped the key, and Merle ended up chopping his own arm off and becoming a bad guy, but then coming back as a good guy, helping them try to take over and kill the governor and yada, yada, yada. It's like, Merle Dixon could be a much more valuable asset if he actually listens and doesn't, go off on his own. And Rick knows this 110%. He has one last confrontation with Merle and says, you can refuse to believe me or not, but guess what? Just because I look like Officer Friendly to you doesn't mean that I won't still put a bullet in your freaking skull. It was easy for the governor. It will be far more easier for me. You can count on it. But I don't want to do that to Daryl. I know everything about you, your brother, and everything you went through. You survived this with us by pulling together, not apart. So you try anything. you will be the one that loses, not us. So they leave the city with the bag of guns and with 3 survivors: Merle, Morgan, and Dwayne. Yes, Dwayne's the only survivor, but Morgan's a part of the story, and Merle's actually coming back with them. The Vatos gang and Dawn's group, let's just say a certain group of unknown people and unknown helicopters, ambushes them, takes them in, kills them, and destroys where they are, and leaves Atlanta in the same situation that Rick Grimes doesn't even know about yet. Something that's drastically going to affect what he knows. And they make their way to the Atlanta camp, where Rick's true test of proving himself is all going to come to the fold as the story is starting to heat up. See you guys next time.